Good afternoon and hello, folks. Thank you for joining us for another Flycast Partners presentation. My name is Rich Longo and I'll be your host. Today's webinar topic is what's in your CMDB. Our presenter will be none other than Flycast Partners' very own Chuck Spencer. Chuck is our lead enterprise service management practitioner and has a very accomplished background that includes Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, an ITIL V3 expert. He actually is a ITIL 4 instructor now and continuing to get all his ITIL 4 certifications. With multiple certifications, an ISO 20000 Manager and Consultant, COBIT 5, PMP, Agile Scrum Master, Change Management. Chuck has over 25 years of experience in improving and implementing service management processes to drive quality, efficiency, and customer satisfaction. He's an innovative and results-oriented senior technology leader with progressive experience in all phases of service management: project, process management, enterprise technical support, organizational leadership, and strategic development. Chuck, before we get started today, let me introduce our organization. Flycast Partners is here to deliver a seriously amazing IT experience founded and staffed by personnel that have many years of experience in the IT space. We took the best ideas from these collective experiences and added the best components necessary to grow and become a leading value-added reseller in the North American IT market. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, and enterprise service management, as well as workload automation spaces using ITIL best practices. Our professional services team can easily scale up or down to meet the IT needs of any customer, regardless of your size, complexity, or budgetary restrictions. We offer implementation services both on-site and remote, as well as training to help reinforce your company's long-term IT success. Our ongoing remote administration and support service offerings will enable your organization to focus on those normal day-to-day operations, saving you both precious time and money. Please always feel free to reach out to us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Or visit us on the web at www.flycastpartners.com. This obviously is just one of many webinars we host here at Flycast Partners. Please go take a look around our website. Find something that might interest you. Next week, as a matter of fact, we're doing Beyond Trust Secure Remote Support. Then we've got Avante Endpoint Manager. We're doing IT Service Manager. So find a topic that you would enjoy and sign up. Share it with your coworkers. Go visit our technology page. Look at some of the options that we have out there that we could potentially help you out with. Look at some of the training offerings that we have on our website. So Chuck, before we get started, I want to throw out the poll to our audience today. And let's just put this poll out there. We're going to see, is your organization currently using a CMDB? And so it's going to be curious to see what the responses are to this, because there are some organizations that still don't have a CMDB or even thought about organizing one. So obviously those of you on this particular presentation, I would think probably already do, and you're probably looking to improve upon it. So let's see how much of our audience. So far we've got 75% of our audience has voted. It looks like 57% so far say they're using a CMDB. They got a couple more votes coming in. Almost got everybody voted here. Look at this. 90% of you voted, and 65% of you say that you're currently using a CMDB, and yet there's still 35% that are not using a CMDB in their organization. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand this screen over to none other than Mr. Chuck Spencer. Let's see here. Let's get this all handed over to him.
Well, thanks, Rich. You know, in working with our clients to help them improve their service management capabilities by implementing best practices, we often get into a discussion on the CMDB. Where should we start? What needs to be in it? And being a well-trained consultant, I always answer a question by first asking a few more questions. Who's going to be using it? What are they using it for? What data do they need to do their jobs? I once worked with a client who kept coffee machines as CIs in their CMDB. And it sounded silly at first, but I soon learned that one of the services their help desk supported was the coffee service for the shop floor. That they would take calls from users on broken care of some machines that were broken and route them out to third-party vendors or the facilities group, incident and service request management. So when someone called, it was helpful to know things like the location, the model, the serial number, the number of burners, the tariff size, if there was a maintenance contract associated to it, who the vendor was for that particular maintenance contract, what the current status of that was. They even did some trending analysis on incidents and requests related to these CIs to identify machines that often broke down or areas where supplies were often depleted before the schedule refreshed, problem in demand management. So as you can see, there was a business need for them to have information on these CIs readily available. And when a new coffee machine was needed, a change request was entered to gather the necessary approvals to install a coffee machine, change management. And this included a task to enter the coffee pot into the CMDB as a CI. And of course, to do this, they had a process in place for purchasing and receiving the asset and then initially entering it into their database, asset management. So how should you determine what should be in your CMDB, and how do you go about planning, implementing, and maintaining your CMDB? What I'm going to share with you today is an approach using the guiding principles, which are a key concept in ITIL 4, to help guide you in the decisions and actions you need to take to plan, implement, and maintain your CMDB. Now, the guiding principles are a concept which originated as part of the lean methodology and were first introduced in ITIL as part of the ITIL practitioner. The guiding principles represent a set of beliefs and values that an organization or an individual can use in all circumstances, regardless of any changes to goals, strategies, the type of work being done, the management structure, any of that. And they provide a thought process for guiding any activity that is required and should be part of the consideration given to any decisions being made. So let's take a look at the guiding principles as proposed in ITIL 4. The principle focus on value ensures that every action taken, every decision made is aimed at creating value for your stakeholders. And that begins really with first understanding who your stakeholders are and what value means to them. What outcomes are they trying to get from the outputs of your process or your service, or in this case, from the information that's in your CMDB. Start where you are means considering what's already available instead of starting from scratch. And to do this, you first have to understand where you are by analyzing the existing state and then identifying what can be leveraged to create the value that's really needed. Now, Deming's Plan, Do, Check, Act quality model has long been part of the foundation of ITIL. And with this, you plan what you're going to do, you do it, you check it to see if you're getting the results you wanted, and then you act on those findings to plan your next iteration and take the next cycle of Plan, Do, Check, Act. And the Progress Iteratively with Feedback principle speaks to this by breaking down work into smaller, manageable yet significant initiatives that require minimal effort but can be used to gather feedback before advancing to the next iteration. The Agile development methodology is built around this with the concept of scrums and minimal viable product. Collaborate and promote visibility focuses on removing silos and building trust. And you can only do this when there's transparency and information is shared across the organization and really with all your stakeholders. The more people you bring into this process, into the discussion, the more diverse ideas and viewpoints you're going to get, and the better the end result's going to be of meeting everyone's expectations and everyone's needs. The principle of think and work holistically is all about working as an integrated organization, where all of the activities and the role of that activity in meeting the vision and producing value are considered. This is also about making sure that you're getting full use out of what in ITIL 4 we call the 4 dimensions: organizations and people, partners and suppliers, information and technology, value streams and processes. This ensures that you're looking at all of these things and any decisions that you're making and try to leverage the use of those to get the most out of all of them. Keep it simple means just that. Simplifying complex work by eliminating processes, procedures, services, actions, and metrics, anything that does not add value and allow the stakeholders to achieve their desired outcomes. And finally, optimize and automate looks at optimizing quality and consistency by first optimizing the work to achieve the efficiency and the effectiveness that you need, and then automating the work to minimize human intervention and with that, the opportunity for human error. So let's take a more in-depth look at each of these and how they can be applied to what you're doing with your CMDB. Let's start with focus on value. This again gets to determining who are your stakeholders, who are the people who are going to use your CMDB, and how will they use the CMDB? What are the outcomes they're trying to achieve from the data, from the information that's there? Are they using it so that when they're contacted about an incident, they know what that user has, what assets they're part of that they're making use of, or what services they're making use of, and how those services are built out? Are they using it for change management, where they're looking for the upstream or downstream effect of any change or any conflicts that may be there? Are they using it for problem management, so they can identify certain CI types as part of proactive problem management that may have a lot of incidents associated to them? Again, who are the stakeholders, and how are they going to use it, and what are they trying to get out of the information that's in your CMDB? Start where you are, again, speaks to don't start from scratch and build something new without considering what you already have. Even though you may not have a CMDB in place, chances are every one of your technology support teams has a spreadsheet or is keeping data about the things that they support in some kind of a tool. We'll identify all the tools currently being used and all of the existing sources of data, then do an assessment of how effective these are. What's the value these teams are getting from using these tools or data sources? What are the pain points or areas that need to be improved? It's almost always better to improve what you currently have than to throw it all away and start again. Although you must also be able to recognize when a complete replacement is in fact needed and have the courage to do that. And as part of this assessment, think about the other processes you have in place: incident management, problem management, change management. How effective are these today, and what is going to need to be changed in these processes so that you can benefit from your CMDB? Change management in particular is a process that needs to be somewhat mature to support and integrate well into the process of building and maintaining control over your CMDB. Now, starting from where you are is not only less wasteful than starting from scratch, because it preserves value that you already have, but it also helps you get people on board with what you're trying to accomplish. They're much more likely to support the changes that you're trying to put in place if you recognize the value of what they have today and integrate that into what you're trying to build. Progress iteratively with feedback. I tell my customers all the time, don't boil the ocean. Don't try to build out your entire CMDB in one project. Start with a minimal viable product. If you're struggling with what to do, look at your critical services and start building out your critical services. And to do that, you might want to look at your disaster recovery plan to determine what those are. But build out those critical services first. And I always tell people, build your CMDB vertically, not horizontally. Start with a service, identify all the CI types that are associated to that service, what's needed within those CI types to be able to manage that service, and start to capture and build on that. That's much more useful than getting in all of your servers, all of your applications, all of your network devices. Until you can tie those to a service, you really aren't getting what you need out of your CMDB. So again, start with that minimal viable product, get it out, let people look at it, see how they can use it, get some feedback, and then act on that and take your next step in building out your CMDB. Now, when you collaborate in the planning and implementation of your CMDB, everyone benefits. Of course, for collaboration to be effective, you need to be transparent about what's happening. If everyone knows what's happening and how well it's going, or even how badly it's going, and you share relevant information, then it's going to be much easier to get everyone to collaborate, get on board, get behind what it is that you're trying to do. And keep in mind that you need to continually engage with all of the stakeholder groups that you've identified. Building out a CMDB is not going to be something that happens quickly. And the way that they need to use the CMDB, the value they are expecting from it, is going to change over time. Make the work you're doing to build out the CMDB visible. As people see how the tool you're using is going to present the data, this will allow them to suggest changes that may add additional value to the finished product or identify additional ways they could utilize the CMDB as part of their value streams. Most importantly, avoid siloed thinking. Each technology group is going to have their own ideas about how the CMDB should be organized, how the tool should be configured, how the processes involved in implementing and maintaining the integrity of the data should work. Many organizations spend way too much time trying to build consensus around these ideas. Do something. Get something in place, let people use it a bit, combine this with thinking or with progressing iteratively with feedback, let them try it out, get some feedback from them, collaborate about what works best, and then take a next step and move forward. Now, no service, practice, process, department, or supplier stands alone. They all interact in complex ways to create value. So you need to think about the needs of the entire enterprise being supported by the CMDB whenever you're planning your CMDB or making a decision about what's going to be in the CMDB and how it will be presented, to ensure that the CMDB really does contribute to the overall creation of value. As part of working holistically, you need to understand the complexity involved. What are all the other things that are going on in your organization? How are they going to impact this? What dependencies are out there? What roles and responsibilities need to be in place? How are they going to contribute to the effort that's there? Keep in mind, it's not just about collecting data, but allowing people to effectively use that data and information to perform their work. And this means making sure you're considering and making effective use of what ITIL refers to as the 4 dimensions. And again, those are organizations of people, partners and suppliers, information and technology, value streams and processes. In the area of organization and people, consider the new roles and responsibilities that you're going to have to define and implement to be able to implement and support your CMDB. And then what skills and experience will these folks need to have? What training are they going to need to have? And then think about your partners and suppliers. What information about the services they provide that in turn become part of the service you provide needs to be included in your CMDB. How will you get that information from them? How will you maintain that information? What relationships need to be in place in order to be able to do that? And of course, what information needs to be tracked in the CMDB? What are all the CI types and what attributes need to be tracked for each type? What technologies are going to be used to discover this data? And what information is needed to manage your CMDB? And of course, last but not least, how will the CMDB fit into the various value streams that are needed to implement and support the products and services you're offering? And not only what processes will need to be implemented to build out your CMDB, but what value will the CMDB bring to those other processes? Keep it simple and practical. Now, this guiding principle comes into play when you're doing things like making decisions on the type of relationships you need and the attributes or data you want to capture for each CI. For the relationships, start simple with just a few relationship types and then expand those as you truly see the need. I've seen organizations create 10, 20, 30 different relationship types, and no one really knows how to use each one, and it's confusing. They don't know which one works where. So don't try to think of every possible relationship in the beginning. Start small, keep it simple. The same applies with the attributes you determine for each CI type. Make sure that the data that you're capturing provides value. Continually ask yourself, why is this needed? Who will use it? And what's the value that's there? And do the same with the processes you develop to implement and maintain your CMDB. Use the minimum number of steps possible to accomplish what needs to be done. And keep this principle in mind when you're designing your reports around the CMDB. Think about who the audience is. Why would they need this information? What information is really of value to them, and how will they use it to achieve what they're trying to achieve? Now, simplicity is the best route to achieving quick wins. And quick wins really allow the organization to demonstrate progress, manage stakeholder expectations, and keep everybody on board. Quick wins are essential whether you're working on a project or any improvement initiative or even the daily operation activities. You have to deliver some quick wins that show value at regular intervals to keep people engaged. And the best way to achieve quick wins is through, again, keeping it simple and practical. Optimize and automate. As you're building out your CMDB, don't rush into automating everything. Start first with manual processes and simplify these. This guiding principle works hand in hand with the other guiding principles, such as progress iteratively with feedback. If you're doing iterative optimization and automation and making that progress visible, it's going to increase stakeholder buy-in for future iterations and make sure that you're not just automating the wrong things. Keep it simple and practical. It's possible for something to be simple but not optimized. So use these two principles together when you're selecting improvements and making sure, again, that each step that's there provides some value. Consider the impact of automation by first focusing on value. Selecting what to optimize and automate and how to do so should be based on what the value it's going to bring to the organization. And of course, start where you are. Here you want to take the technology that's already available in the organization that may have features and functionalities that are currently untapped or underutilized and make use of what's already there to implement opportunities for optimization and automation very quickly and economically. And in the end, automate, automate, automate. The more you can automate your CMDB and the things that are in there, the more up-to-date it's going to be, the more reliable it's going to be, and the better it's going to provide value to your organization. Now, when you're looking at your CMDB, there is a process within ITIL that talks to how to build out, how to plan, how to build out, and how to maintain your CMDB. Now, in ITIL v3, this is referred to as the Service Asset Configuration Management Process. In ITIL 4, it's just going to be called Configuration Management. We haven't seen exactly what's there in ITIL 4 yet, but I don't expect it's going to be much different than what's here. These are the primary activities that are involved: configuration management planning, configuration identification, configuration control, status accounting reporting, and verification and audit. And so we're going to talk a little bit about each one of these and how you can apply the guiding principles to each one of these areas. Now, I've got some recommendations down here about which ones should apply to areas. This doesn't mean that this is absolute. You know, when you look at these, you of course want to look at all the guiding principles and see what applies. But this will just kind of give you an idea of how you might apply some of these. Now, the primary output of configuration management planning is to create a service asset configuration management plan. This is going to be at first a strategic document, and as you maintain this document throughout the life cycle, it's going to become more tactical over time. But this is where you're going to define the scope of what needs to be in your CMDB, what policies and standards need to be adhered to by the CMDB, what your organization needs to look like in terms of roles and responsibilities, what processes and tools you're going to use to implement and maintain your CMDB, and what relationships there need to be with other processes and other groups in order to be able to do this. So here it's very important that you look at some of the guiding principles like focusing on value, making sure that everything that's here really provides value to someone in the organization. And then start where you are. You have policies and standards today. You have some organization in place today. You have some processes and tools. You have some relationships to other processes and groups. So think about what those are today, what's good in them, what can be improved, and leverage what you can. Progress iteratively with feedback. Again, this document itself should be an iterative document, starting out very strategic, sharing it with some people, getting some feedback on that, and making it more defined and more tactical as you develop the plan. Collaborate and promote visibility. The more people you can bring into this planning, the more, again, the diverse thoughts that you're going to have, the diverse views you're going to have, the more likely it's going to be that this plan really addresses the needs of everyone that's there. Think and work holistically. Again, think of how complex this really is, and then make sure you're getting the best use out of all 4 dimensions within your service management capabilities. And then keep it simple and practical. Make sure, again, that these are just what needs to be done, that there's value there. It's very simple. It's very practical in nature. So again, just some ideas of how you can apply these guiding principles to this particular activity. Now, I'll share with you that this activity is one that I see most organizations shortchange, and it's most often the reason they fail in what they're trying to do in building out their CMDB. You have to put a good plan in place before you start to take action. A lot of people just start to rush into populating their CMDB without really thinking through all of this and getting in place what's really needed to well plan that CMDB. The configuration identification activity, this is where you're going to define your asset classes and their types. So you want to identify an owner for each CI type and then engage that owner in defining the naming and labeling standards for that CI type, the relevant attributes for that CI type, what the statuses for that CI type and the life cycle of that CI type might be. You're going to have statuses that are common through all of the CIs, but certain CIs types will have a different life cycle and some different statuses that are needed, depending possibly on whether it's hardware or whether it's software. Those are some likely areas where there may be some differences. You do want to specify at what point that CI becomes under the control of your service asset and configuration management process, and more importantly, when it becomes under control of your change management process, and when there have to be changes, when a change is made, or they have to be change records when a change is made to that particular CI. And of course, this is also where you're going to identify the relationships and standards that you're going to use. And so it's going to be very important here to think of some of these guiding principles, like, again, focusing on value, making sure that there's real value from each one of the CI types and classes. and that you progress iteratively with feedback, that you build these over time. You don't, again, develop all kinds of relationships and all kinds of attributes at the beginning, but you progress iteratively with feedback. Now, it looks like I've got that one twice here, but that gives you the idea. We're going to progress iteratively and then progress iteratively. You also want to keep it simple and practical as you're doing this, and make sure, again, that there's real value to everything that's there, and it's practical. It can be used. It makes sense to everyone. Configuration and control. This is where you're going to really, again, lock down the configuration using change management and making sure that you've got good version control in place, that you've got control over the access to the storage areas and facilities, and you're maintaining the integrity of your definitive media library, and that you've got a good baseline that's in place prior to deploying these CIs, and that you've got good control around how you deploy, how you distribute, how you install particular CIs. So again, this is where you want to start where you are. Look at the processes you have in place today. Look at the tools you have in place today that will help you with this. Keep it simple and practical. Make sure that the things that you're tracking here and what you're doing really is providing value, and it's as simple as it possibly can be. People resist change often because they got to do too much work to do a change. So make sure that everything that they have to do to document that change is very simple and very practical. And then here, optimize and automate. Get the efficiency, the effectiveness that you need in place manually first, get it optimized, and then look at automating it. The more you can automate this, again, the more up-to-date, reliable the information in your CMDB is likely to be. Status accounting and reporting. This activity primarily deals with making sure that you've got a good status of all the CIs, that it's current, that it's up to date, and also making sure that you maintain a history of all the configurations, snapshots in time, so I can go back and look at what the configuration looked like yesterday or a week ago or before this change was made or before that change was made. Well, I want to make sure that we're baselining things and that any changes to those baselines are documented along with the change that caused that to occur. We want to make sure that the status of the CIs is available throughout the life cycle of the CI so that everyone can see that, and that we're recording changes to the CIs throughout that life cycle, from the time it's received to the time it's disposed of. Here again, you want to focus on value, making sure that these statuses mean something to people, that there's some value there. You want to progress iteratively with feedback to make sure that as you're doing this, you're developing this status, and especially these reports over time, you're getting some feedback on what you're reporting, how useful it is, and then you're advancing to the next step. You again want to collaborate, promote visibility, bring as many people into looking at this. The whole idea of status accounting really is to provide visibility to the organization on what the status of these CIs are. So the more people you can make this visible to, the better the information you're going to get available to you when something is out of whack or something is out of place as to why that might have happened. You want to keep it simple and practical. Don't come up with 30 statuses. Get some very simple statuses that you have, maintain those statuses, and then of course again, optimize and automate. Make sure that the processes for doing status and accounting reporting are done manually first, that they're very efficient and very effective, and then automate those so that you don't have to spend a lot of time reporting. You can spend more time perhaps looking at the exceptions that occur when something's not what it's really supposed to be. Verification and audit. This activity is one that you're going to do before and after any changes to the infrastructure. You're going to go out and, again, look at the statuses, look at what that configuration looks like. You want to do it both at planned and at random intervals. You want to do it in response to the detection of any unauthorized changes or modifications of CIs to see if anything else might have changed as well. And then, of course, determine why that changed. Here again, you want to really collaborate and promote visibility. The more people you can bring into this discussion, the more visibility you're going to get, the more information and knowledge you're going to get on perhaps why some of these changes took place and why they didn't have the right change control around them or the right control around them. Again, you want to keep it very simple and practical. Make sure that everything that you're doing here, the verification data, has a purpose, it has a reason, and then optimize and automate it. The more, again, you can optimate this, the more reliable the information is going to be, the less strain it's going to be on your organization, and the more up-to-date your information in your CMDB is really going to be. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Rich. I think we've kind of walked through this and hopefully given you some ideas of how you can apply some of these guiding principles to what you're doing with your CMDB and making sure that it works in the best possible way for your organization.
Thank you so much, Chuck. A great presentation, very much appreciated. And folks, I want to thank you for joining us for another Flycast Partners webinar. If you have any questions about the CMDB or anything else related to ITIL in particular, we'd be happy to help you out any way we can. If you have any questions about your tool, or maybe you need some remote administration services, keep Flycast Partners in mind. Give us a call at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. With that being said, folks, I am going to wish you a great day and a great weekend, and until our next webinar. Have a great one, folks. Thank you for joining.